Hello and welcome to the State Opening of Parliament 2024 Watch Party on Politics Social. Hello to one angry pagan, 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 and one angry pagan. How are you all doing in the chat there, one angry pagan? We've also got Puninator getting a word in edgeways, or a cat, I think. And we've also got Gillian Hope in there as well. Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's head over to see what's happening in the House of the Palace of Westminster, I should say. This is in the House of Commons. This is the Palace of Westminster. So we've got a hat. I've got a hat on a cushion there, and we've got a man walking with a stick, which is very, very exciting. And there's a man with a stick with a hat on top of it, which is really cool. Because you need to know where your hat is. Sometimes you need to know where your hat is. Don't know what they're doing at the moment. They seem to be wandering around. And putting the hat. Oh, he's put the hat on the stick into a place where it goes. So this is fun. I'm just going to pour myself some tea while we watch this. How are you all? Let me know in the chat. We've got It's Neutral saying howdy. We've got Tommy saying hello. We've got One Angry Badger saying all the badgers, all the goddamn badgers. Look at that little hat. Little hat there and a sword. It'd be funny if someone, he holds it, will make him Prime Minister. Sparkly sword. Well, there you go. And that's everyone taking a seat in one of the rooms there, and this is the BBC talking. There's some person talking there. Blah blah blah. What I like to do is I like to dress up as a small little animal and run around the forests at night, wearing night vision goggles. Actually, that's what she's saying. I'm just trying to lip read there, obviously. Where is that vodka? Says David. I'm on the tea. I'm back on the tea. 3 out of 10. This ceremony doesn't hold up to Mordaunt and the sword. Oh, if only Mordaunt would hold the sword for us. And there's some fabulously dressed Kingmasters there in the walking down the carpet. Nice carpet they've put down, especially. And there's a big painting, and there's another painting, and everyone's sitting there. Everyone seems to be having a great time. They all look so happy. They're pleased to be there. BBC chatting bollocks. Yeah, indeed. Who is replacing Penny Mordaunt as the sword holder? I don't think anyone's going to hold the sword, because I think that was just for the coronation. I don't know. Congratulations to Jamie. Graduated on Monday, so great week so far. Well done, Jamie, on becoming a graduate. Very exciting stuff. Gabby Arnold says hi. Cosplayers turning up, says Alan Jackson. Indeed. These are the beefers of Eat, I think. Are they? The beef eaters or something? And there's old King Charlie in his golden carriage with his queenie wife by his side, Camilla, the woman he once famously asked to be wanted to be the tampon of, if anyone remembers that. I remember that. This is the first state opening of Parliament in 14 years that's not actually going to involve the Tories laying out what they're going to be doing in their agenda, the legislative agenda. It's just going to be Labour, even. Jesus Christ. No holding of the sword. What's even the point, says Puninator, who speaks for us all. Graham is the life and soul of live streams, says Tommy. Thank you very much. I'm still a little bit under the weather. Apparently this cough's going to last for another week or so. So I was told on the stream this morning, so might be in trouble there. Vendetta, tampon, what? Oh, God. So there was a phone call that was intercepted between the then Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, who was then married to Tom Parker Bowles, her husband, in which they were talking about how they like to be with each other, and he suggested that he could be a Tampax in her in the phone call. This happened in the early 90s. It was the most cringe thing of all time ever. I don't think anything's going to out cringe it. But there you go. Anyway, so here we have some lords. They're going to be looking at their lordy papers there, their hymn sheets. Hopefully, all singing from the same hymn sheet. This guy cleaning his ear there. Yeah, get that ear cleaned, which is good. There's a lot of Gandalf and Obi-Wan Kenobi cosplay going on. Graham, I can't hear what they're saying. Someone had to say it. Yes, I know. It's the BBC commentary. It would just be me commentating over the BBC commentary, which I might do in a moment, but I'm just kind of enjoying the silence in my ears of just looking at these very strange people all packed in together in the House of Lords there. What a weird setup. They're all like sitting on each other's knees. It's all very cozy. More cozy. That's what I call flirting one royal edition. Indeed, it's a royal way of flirting. Asking to be a married woman's tampon. But anyway, she's the queen now. Will Angela Rayner be carrying? Does anyone carry the sword in this? I don't know. I did this last year for the state opening of Parliament. I can't remember anything. I can't remember anything about it at all whatsoever. Zero, zip, nada. So maybe we'll put on the BBC commentary. Should we put on the BBC commentary? These people talking here. They're laughing like this. Someone just laughed like that on the BBC. That almost never happens. On on Radio 4, you never hear anyone laughing like that. Just doesn't happen. Okay, all right. They're talking about tricky stairs now. I'm going to turn the volume up so you can hear them.
The lift was called, and in she got.
They're talking about the tricky
stairs. And the lift,
stairs.
instead of going down, went up. And the doors.
I want to be a lord, says Gary Arnold.
Sort of second or third
Understandable.
Floor. And there was a sort of hapless clerk.
There we go. There's the mace.
Monarch. So that must have been a bit of a surprise for him, and indeed possibly for the monarch. But I am told.
Alex says, I find it all really silly. Are you saying that man carrying that novelty sex aid is in any way silly?
This is the Lord Speaker, Lord McFall. He's the Speaker of the House of Lords. And this is his procession.
She nearly said it.
To the sovereign's
Here is Lord McF.
Of the Palace of Westminster. And you, of course, did this.
Very heavy. Very heavy.
Wearing those robes, yes?
Really weighs you down because it's pure gold. Oh, not all of it, but the braiding is pure gold. So
you need
have
to
a
walk
bearer.
Slowly.
Pure gold?
You have a bearer,
who wear clothes made of gold.
Hook your robe up.
Joe left me what a load of silly nonsense.
The ceremony just ahead of the Queen, as it was in my day, Queen, but now the King and the Queen.
Is the robe adjusted for you?
Yes, indeed. What they do is they take off the entire border and sort of sew it on again because most people are taller than I am, so...
Tommy says, remember, don't let Graham go off on one.
Because
the word hardship mentioned in the speech.
So long and heavy that they couldn't...
I might.
And we'll see those pages a little later on.
Later when you see the Speaker of the House of Commons.
So this is the King making his way to Parliament to read the speech that's been prepared for him by the Labour Party to explain what they're going to be doing in this Parliament. 35 pieces of legislation.
It's so beautiful.
Symbolise strength.
And they're kept in mothballs for the year.
Is that Father Christmas?
For their annual outing.
She's lost her voice worse than I have. Listen, I'm just going to turn this down because I don't really care about mothballs. Thought Brown sold all the gold. Fake news. Well, he didn't sell all of it. So there we go. We got someone carrying a thing there. Another stick. What is that? The same guy as before? Are they in a different room? What's going on? Who is Black Rod? Well, Black Rod is the lady usher or the gentleman usher of the Black Rod, and they represent the Queen, and they go to the House of Commons to summon the MPs, but not before having the door slammed in their face, in their stupid, silly little face, as a demonstration that the monarch is not welcome in the House of Commons. But then after knocking 3 times, they open the door anyway, and they say, "Come on, everyone, let's go to the House of Lords to go listen to the speech." But only like 3 people can actually fit in the chamber because it's already full of lords. There you go. I think this guy might be a Tory. If I am wrong, it'll go down in internet history, in YouTube legend, that I was actually wrong. But he doesn't half look like a Tory, doesn't he? I don't know if you know who he is. If you can let me know in the chat, but he's got the face of a Tory. What can I say? Not that Lady Owen. What? They're just showing the Needlecraft project, which is funny. Different person, same stick. Oh, right. Okay, so it's like a relay. Oh, I get it now. That's what it's for. It's a fancy baton. When you relay racing, when you're doing the men's 400 metres. Thanks, Graham, says Gary. I don't know what for. Black Rod, he's on Pornhub, isn't he? Do you know what? Vendetta made that joke, so I didn't have to. Watch the hands. Why am I watching my hands? What? Is it because he's got little sausage fingers? Is that why we need to watch? The most Tory-looking chap I ever did see, says Joe Lefty. One angry pagan says, as a pagan socialist, I find myself at so many odds with other lefties. I actually appreciate the symbolism, history, and tradition. The mace has been a symbol of justice since our pagan days. There you go. I'm kind of like trapped in the middle between one angry pagan and Joe Lefty on this. There's a part of me that finds it very, very silly, but then there's a part of me that appreciates how important culture is. And this is part of our culture, of our country. And in that way, good, let it be celebrated. If it was any other country and they were doing something mad because they've just done it for hundreds of years and it wasn't really hurting anyone, we'll all be like, oh, wow, this is great. Oh, thank you for inviting me along to watch the celebration of your culture. So, yeah, I'm a bit like that. But yeah, it does look a bit silly. But then again, cultures around the world, I know you shouldn't say it, but they sometimes look a bit silly to outsiders. Thanks for explaining the role of Black Rod, Graham. Oh, you're very welcome. They represent the Queen, the King. Someone told the horseman to hurry up. Hurry the bloody hell up. Prince Philip isn't here anymore, unfortunately, to tell him to hurry up. Patrick says, important to point out that Gordon Brown didn't sell all the gold. We still own gold. Our gold reserves have been sold off gradually inside successive governments since the peak amount just after World War II. Yes, and quite rightly, because gold, we cannot control the price of gold. It is controlled by the gold-producing nations, and depending on how much gold they decide to produce, we have no say on it whatsoever. So we could have loads and loads of gold, and then one day it could be completely worthless because we don't need it. Well, maybe we find a mountain made of gold in Antarctica or something. £5 super chat. Woohoo! It's the first super chat of the show, and I've got to find where I've got the super chat up there. There you go. For an episode of How We Fix Britain, you should get Graham Smith from the Public Campaign on. That would be good. 2 Grahams is always good. 2 Grahams is better than 1. We've got trumpets going. I'm gonna put up the trumpets. Oh, you missed the trumpets. Sorry, I heard the trumpets, but you didn't. Sorry about that.
Fanfare is sounded to signal their Majesty's arrival.
Like 20th Century Fox. Graham Smith. Okay. Tripod 9000. I will look that up.
Hello, Queenie. New Queenie.
I think she looks a bit like Zelda from Tower of Hawks. Oh, and
the Union Jack is lowered over the Palace of Westminster, and the Royal Standard is now flying
to show where the King
signify
is.
the presence of the King.
I really don't need the BBC thing. I don't think. I think I should knock it off. Or I could just listen to it into my ear, and I could just say
make
everything
their
they're
way
going to say
up the Sovereign's
either just before
staircase.
it or just after it, and appear like I know what I'm talking about.
And by tradition, this is the only route that the Sovereign can take to the House of Lords.
Oh, there you go. He has to go in through the back entrance. Oh, we're so sacrilegious. District 9, wasn't it mostly sold to prop up the economies of several third world nations who bought it, and we reaped massive benefits and soft power gains?
Is coming up.
Probably, yeah.
The stairs, and Lord McFall,
she's just happy to
the
be
Lord
there. Look
Speaker,
at her. She's beaming.
along with the
she's like, hey everyone, isn't this boss?
Lucy Powell. And in front of the King and Queen is the Earl Marshal on the left, the Duke of Norfolk, and also the Lord Great Chamberlain, Lord Carrington.
Norfolk.
Rupert Carrington.
Norfolk.
He's the son of Peter Carrington.
The son of Peter Carrington. Excellent. The maces are multiplying, and I'm losing control. Because the soft power you're supplying, it's electrifying. Oh, back to the
King
BBC.
and Queen have gone into the robing room to get ready for the state procession. So
Charles
is
wearing more medals and suits.
As we
most
turn
of
our
those medals
attention
are
to
participation
the
awards.
Of the day. And my guests are representing the 3 biggest parties in the House of Commons following the July the 4th election. And they are Daisy Cooper of the Liberal Democrats.
I like Daisy Cooper.
Daisy. Sir Chris Bryant of the Labour Party.
I like Chris
also
Bryant.
Andrew Griffith of the Conservative Party. Morning to you all. Still with me, of course, is the BBC's political editor, Chris Mason. So, Chris, what are we expecting from this speech?
Oh, so he wasn't a Tory. He's a political correspondent. He's Chris Mason.
Keen to project a sense of energy and direction, and I guess turn those manifesto promises
He did
with
look
the
like a
horses and
Tory,
the
though,
fancy
you got to
dress
admit.
into the
I guess he's got
beginnings
to be impartial.
of intended laws. There's going to be the best part of 40
Fun tidbit, when
bills
Blair
or
expanded the
draft
law,
bills
he
announced
also
by the
created the
King in the
position of
next
Speaker of the House of
15
Lords,
or
the first opening
20
of
minutes,
Parliament
so that
after
there'll be
that
plenty
that
for the
change.
new
They
government to be
didn't
getting
have a
on with.
spot.
They're making the
Well,
case
that's
that
the
that
point,
is
yeah,
more
'cause that's
new
where the King
bills
sits.
than at the equivalent moment.
Colin says, I
Tony Blair
recall,
back in
not the 9 o'clock news,
1997. Clearly,
Mickey
though,
take where
a
they
bill is
showed
an
the opening
intended
of
piece of
Parliament
legislation. You've still got to make it
over
into a
in the
law,
mood.
and governments can get sidetracked or things can happen.
Gareth says, I'm a
events
huge
can
monarchist. I
happen.
love this.
Nonetheless, they have
I
a
used to
colossal
do search in the
majority,
army,
so
so I've
it's
pretty much done
reasonable
every
to assume
inch
a
of the
fair
Palace of
chunk
Westminster.
of these will become law in time. And they are also written down what are clearly the first priorities of the new government, because
this is
a
all that
parliamentary
we
session is not as
really
long as a
here
parliamentary
for. We're
term,
just
so
here
there's
for
stuff
the
they can
speech.
get onto in the coming years, but stuff that they really want to do, it would make sense that they put in their first King's
Got a
speech,
pen.
and so we'll get a sense of what those
Gotta make a list.
things are in the next 10, 15 minutes. There won't be any surprises. It will be putting forward a lot of the stuff that they were campaigning on in the last couple of months
Brutai, good point.
into the legislative process
Well
that will
spotted.
start in the coming days and weeks. Parliament, the Commons getting underway in a couple of hours, the debate beginning, and that legislative process starting.
Yes, after the pomp and pageantry, it starts immediately, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Chris Bryant, Sir Chris Bryant, as Chris Mason was saying...
Corner.
This is the Chris corner. It makes life easy for me.
Yes, good. Well, I would like.
So you've got this huge majority, 174. There are big expectations and big ambitions, clearly, but not much wriggle room in terms of money.
Oh, in terms of money, no. I think I was always a very bad rugby player, but when I played once at Twickenham, I broke my leg because of a hospital pass. From a Conservative MP, in fact, but and it does feel a bit like a hospital pass in terms of the economic situation in the country. That is true. But look, this is, if you like, the sugar babes moment. This is when we push the button. This is when we press the reset button on the political agenda in the country. We're very keen to show that we've got energy, drive, determination. We want economic growth is at the heart of everything we want to achieve. So we're talking about, as Chris says, 35 bills. That's a lot of legislative change. I would hope that we would manage to get all of those through. Some of them might, of course, end up being draft bills now and then pursued further in a second session of Parliament, but everything through from really important scientific innovations that we need to legislate for, to building more homes, planning reform, putting the Office of Budgetary Responsibility on a clearer, independent footing. There's a lot in there, and we're kind of brimming with excitement. It's been very strange being a minister in an office for the last 10 days and just going through...
You
Audit them!
You have two roles. You are Minister of State in two departments.
Yeah, science, innovation and technology, where I'm doing data, and I'm probably not meant to say yet, but I think there might be a bill that I might be involved in.
Let's not jump the gun just yet. And I never thought I'd hear the sugar babes mentioned during the state opening of Parliament. Thank you very much. Andrew Griffiths, I mean, you come to this new session of Parliament in a very different mood. You suffered really a disaster in the election.
It was glorious.
Now, and also in the knowledge that your leader is not going to be your leader for very much longer.
No.
Well, we've got our important constitutional job that starts today, which is to be the official opposition. I think for us as a party, the way back includes building credibility and trust and competence as discharging that function as the official
Microphone's
opposition.
just gone off.
I mean, we're seeing, as Chris said,
Nothing
really a
to it, mate.
blizzard of bills. I mean, if there's 35
Blizzard
bills,
of
that's
bills.
bigger than the percentage share of vote that this government was elected on.
Ah.
So, legislate at haste, repent at
here's
leisure. We will
Mike.
do our proper
no.
job of
They're going to have to get rid of him. They're going to
we
be
all
like,
wish the best for our country.
Get rid of this guy.
So if there's good measures in there...
Oh, no, that mic problem is not me. I promise you that's
happier
not me.
lives, then we will support that. But
That's
you've
the
got to look
BBC
as well
being
about
crap
the
with
dangers
mics.
of government
Oh.
with a big majority that's been out of power and all of the
I
new
was all
colleagues
set
have
up.
Chris's
I had at least 20 minutes before the
and
beginning of
making
the
sure
show.
that we
to
get that
things
legislation
sorted.
right. It's really important. We do a number of things in Parliament. We legislate.
I'll tell
we
you what
also
you could do
scrutinise the spend,
is sort out your microphone.
and help hold government to account. They promise not to increase taxes in the election. We will hold them to account and make sure they do not break that promise.
And just briefly, Andrew, if the government does introduce bills that had originally been introduced by the Conservative government,
That sounds
will you
pretty
back
crap
them?
as well.
Well, certainly constructively oppose, and that does not mean opposing things for their own sake. So if you look at things like the Martin's
not
Law,
important,
for
mate.
example,
You and no Mark.
there were
That's
some
very
other
nice.
bills that
Martin's Law on making...
Have they got Phil's old mic?
prevention.
I don't know. Can you all hear it? This isn't me. This isn't my headphone jack, is it? Because it keeps going to another mic, keeps flicking between a secondary mic, which is obviously that one, which is obviously further away, and then that's his lapel mic,
and it's important that
which is really
Parliament does
gainy.
its job of scrutiny and makes bills better.
Okay. Let's see what is in the speech. I'm being told that your microphone is there's a little bit of an issue with it, so many apologies to viewers for that. We'll see what we can do. Daisy, last time I saw you
Wasn't
were
my
in the
tech
studio,
problems for a
during
change.
election night with a broad grin on your face.
Got a team,
the
you
Liberal
know,
Democrats had a
team of
great
people.
night. How do you make your
Sorting out
voice
the sound
heard,
and the
though? You've got
visuals, making it
72
all look
MPs now,
swish,
up from 11,
professional.
but you are still the third party.
Well, look, in the last Parliament, there were
BBC
distant
thought their
of us,
microphone
and we did
wish.
make our voice heard even then, because we were
a
the
bit
first
unfair,
party to
I
call
mean,
for a windfall tax. We
there's
were
so
the
many things to
first
go wrong,
party to
especially
put
with live
the sewage
television.
scandal on the parliamentary agenda.
Let me tell
and now
you.
with 72 of us, we'll be a much stronger voice in Parliament. What I would say is that during the general election, we campaigned relentlessly on the NHS and social care. We put it
Has
front
she
and
got more
centre
teeth
of our campaign, and it won't
than
be a surprise to
the
the
average
government or indeed to anybody
person?
else that what we would really
is that
want to
just
see
me?
today from the King's speech are some really strong commitments on health and social care.
does seem to have a lot of
we've said,
teeth.
for example, we want to see new legal rights for people to see a
think
GP
Freddie Mercury had
within
extra
7
teeth,
days,
didn't he?
for people to get their urgent cancer treatment within 62 days, and for the Secretary of State and for ministers to actually have a statutory duty
hear me.
to actually meet some of those targets. We also campaigned on the cost of living and, of course, on the sewage scandal. So I think across those three issues, we really want to see those coming out in the King's speech today.
Chris, we are going to see a more varied House of Commons, aren't we? With reform, with the Greens now with 4 MPs. Will this make a difference to the texture of
So Larry
the
the Cat
debate,
had
or
got
are
a
they
new
too small?
laptop,
It's going to be fascinating to see,
and
because
it went
Parliament will
all
just
the way
feel and
through
sound
the
rather
night of the
different than
election
taking
without
those
a
who
hitch.
spend
So
a lot of time looking in
it's
on
okay
Parliament
now.
from the press gallery.
Costs
Quite
a
a
lot
while
of
to
money,
get our
but it's
heads
okay.
around it. As we were saying before, in a more sort of constitutional context, the titles don't change, but the occupiers of various roles
This isn't very
do.
interesting, is
Reminding
it?
ourselves
Sorry,
that
everyone.
the leader of the opposition, for now at least, is Rishi Sunak. For so long, that was Keir Starmer. There's always a leader of the opposition. There's always
Right. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. No, I just want to say, like, when you're doing live stuff, there's so many things that you've got to rely on working all at the same time. You've got multiple layers of what's happening here. You've got the comments coming up. You've obviously got to have the mic working. You've got to know that the mic is working. You've got to have, like, every single animation that you see on this show, on this, all has its own audio. So, you know, if you mess that up, then it'll just be silent. So you've got the audio, you've got the visual, that has to be right, and it has to be going at the right stream, it has to be going at the right aspect ratio, or not aspect ratio, because aspect ratio is important as well. You see videos on YouTube and think where they've messed up the aspect ratio so everyone looks like cone heads and stuff. But also you've got to look at the resolution of the picture, whether you're going to put it out at 4K, which this is going out at 4K, or whether you want to just do it in high definition, and how that affects the text on the screen, the readability of the text. In the text there's actually a load of HTML. There's like a whole page full of HTML just to get that text to look right on the screen. So it's not too big and not too small. It's but CSS. But it's, a lot goes into it. And then you need the internet to work. And sometimes, you know, from watching TV and doing stuff on the internet, sometimes it just stops. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just like, no, I'm not going to have any internet now. And you can text to the other people in the house and say, please turn off all other internet things that are, attached to the internet. But a lot of the time, it doesn't make any difference. It's just the internet's, we're at the mercy of the internet providers. And sometimes, it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. But I try and make the system here at home as robust as possible. So there's a lot of redundancy built into it. I use a wired connection to the internet, so I'm not going through wireless because of the problems that can be caused by the fact that everything uses the 2.4 megahertz frequency. Like drones use that, and your phone Bluetooth uses that, and the microwave uses that. It's a bit crowded, that part of the spectrum. Anyway, the rain stopped my internet on Monday. I think that's what happened to me. Gary, when I was doing stateside on Monday, we lost a lot of frames and I had to put the bit rate right down. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it. Don't mention the teeth, recovering from dental work today. Oh God. Sorry, Gillian, for doing that. I'm on Vodafone, not been too bad, to be honest. I'm on Vodafone now here at home. I was on BT when I first started doing the streams, and I had a lot of trouble with them. And I said, you guaranteed these rates of the internet, and they went, yeah, that's only for download speeds. We don't guarantee upload speeds. So I'm completely at the mercy of the companies that charge 30 quid a month to, maybe allow you to do a stream or maybe not, depending on how they're feeling. Vodafone's been better, I've got to say. I've got fiber optic now. Yeah, we don't have particularly fast internet here in Durham yet. We're hoping to get that soon, but fiber's not been rolled out here. Cheers, mate. Just stick my mace there. Good chap, indeed. And Chris, he's always got good things to say. Should we turn the volume up on Chris? Here we go.
Sapphire in the Imperial Crown. And that, of course, King James II ran off with when he fled Britain in the 1670s, and he then gave it to his son, who gave it to his grandson, who was a cardinal, and then we bought it back in 1807. So there's layers and layers of history, which is what, of course, we all love. And it's one of the things that I think endears us and fascinates us, is fascinating for lots of other countries around the world.
Yes, indeed. Let's bring it back to the politics of the day. Andrew Griffiths, I wonder how you find yourself here in terms of the mood within the party, given what happened on election night.
The mood. They love asking this on the news.
We lost a lot of very good colleagues, and that's clearly a disappointment. And there's always a process as you go through of coming to terms with that, and then lifting one's eyes to the horizon, settling down to the job of work that we've got to do in different circumstances, and finding our way to do that as well. I was in government for 4.5 years. We've now got to regroup as a party and discharge that job of opposition. Disagree with Chris a little bit. Actually, the economy has been coming good. We're the fastest growing economy in the G7. Inflation, we heard again this morning, is bang on the Bank of England's 2% target. And unemployment is at an almost all-time low of just 4%. So, we'll have mixed views on that, but we think actually
yesterday we had one potato. Today we've got 2 potatoes.
Relative to
fastest growing economy.
European peers.
Trumpets. Here we go. Yeah, shut up, Tory. Shut up, Tory scam.
State trumpeters.
The state of that.
The arrival of His Majesty.
She was going to say the absolute state of the opening of Parliament. The state of the opening. Rocky theme.
The King's robe of state was made for Edward VII's coronation.
Oh wow. How very interesting. Alec, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, mate. The Lib Dems aren't happy with wind farms and solar farms in their communities.
It is Queen Camilla's 77th birthday today,
i.e. lower electricity bills and
so happy birthday to her.
Thank you very much for the super chat there, Alec. I think they're just going to have to shut up and put up by the looks of things.
The layers of history are again interesting. They've just walked
Camilla's
past
birthday today.
Great big paintings by Macleish of
Nick and Dev says, what am I missing? Pomp and Wankery,
Waterloo,
yes.
And Trafalgar, and now they're in the Prince's Chamber, which is, of course,
they're going to start
the
speech in a few minutes.
Divorced, beheaded, died.
Yes,
beheaded,
the wives, Henry VIII and his wives, and also I think a very fine marble statue of Queen Victoria. This is
Camilla!
The Prince's Chamber.
And also now paintings which are relatively new of the old tapestries of the Armada that were lost in the fire in 1834.
It's a very fine room.
It is a bit like quantum.
We see Angela Smith, Baroness Smith, holding the cap of maintenance.
The
and
what?
the former chief of the defence
what?
staff. We can see.
She just say the cap
perhaps
of
on
maintenance.
The other side.
What? I
That's
love
Lord
it.
Richard's holding
What is
the
this
sword
cap?
of
It's
state.
the cap of maintenance and the sword of state. That's like
And
the shittest.
An interesting
like,
detail here: the monarch's
item
throne
you can get in like Dungeons and
slightly
Dragons.
higher than that.
I have the cap of
of
maintenance.
the
What can you
Queen,
do? I can fix this bit
indicating
of plumbing.
his
This leaky
ascendancy.
tap be gone. I rolled a d4. Yes. It's gone. I rolled a d. Oh, someone's phone's going off. So get the phone. Get the phone, Charles.
Sounds like a mobile phone going off in there.
Yeah.
My lords, pray be seated.
Pray be seated. Answer the phone. Oh, we need to sit down. Shit, I should have been standing up. Alright, I'll just sort of bounce on my seat. I want my cap of maintenance. Use cap of maintenance on boiler.
The signal is given by the Lord Great Chamberlain.
Oh, this
to
is Blackrod.
Blackrod, Sarah Clark, who
Lady
sets off
Usher
from the central
of
lobby
Blackrod.
at the heart of the Palace of
So
Westminster.
she's going to summon
And
the
from that position, she can actually
MPs.
see both chairs of the Lords and the Commons. And as tradition dictates, as Sir Chris Bryant was telling us, the doors of the Commons will be slammed in her face by the doorkeepers. And it's a demonstration of the independence of the House of
Watch
Commons.
this. Can I come in? Come again? Oh, piss off! It's my favourite bit. Because as you see the marks from the years that Blackrod has been banged against that door. Clear off!
Blackrod!
It's bonkers, isn't it?
She'll now
Delightfully
step into the
bonkers.
chamber of the House of Commons to deliver the King's message.
Hello, everyone.
Mr. Speaker, the King commands this honourable House
Okay.
to attend His Majesty immediately in the House of Peers.
Okay, bye. Is that near the House of Lords? Not that immediate then. Yeah, it's not like a fire drill, is it? Like everyone just like stands up all at the
Sergeant
same
at
time.
Arms takes the mace.
I love the way
And
there's not
it's
enough
the
space
Speaker,
for anything or anyone to
Sir
like walk
Lindsay
about.
Hoyle, who leads the way with Blackrod. Sarah Clark was formerly in charge of the administration of Wimbledon, she was telling me. So she knows a thing or two about.
And the Olympics, she was involved in the
Organisations, large
organising the
organisations.
Olympics.
This is the lip reading bit, isn't it?
Well, Chris, how good is your lip reading?
I was intrigued
I
by
need
the
to get
small talk
Catherine
that
on
goes
for the lip reading.
Yeah, so you've got the Prime Minister and the Conservative leader will be coming into shot in just a second. A penny for the exchanges as to what they have to say. The father and
That's
mother
the
of the House.
mother and father of the House there. Obviously the leader of the
And
opposition
their
and
roles
the
are
Prime
just
Minister.
reversed, aren't they,
The deputies.
Chris? It's Rishi Sunak now, the leader
Yeah,
of the opposition.
this adjustment, as I say, even for those of us who professionally observe what goes on here all the time, it's quite
It's like, I
mesmerising.
just can't wait
the
to get
kind
to
of
California.
hokey-cokey of job
Just-
titles.
I love
So I'm very
Coke.
conscious for a
I love Mexican
fleeting
Coke.
view of Westminster.
Mexican Coke's the
Yeah,
best.
it's quite baffling because
Get
the,
me some Mexican
the terms
Coke.
are enduring, but the
William
occupiers
Kia.
change. So yeah, leader of the opposition Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
Yeah,
It still
Yvette
has
Cooper
an
there,
element of
David
surprise
Lammy.
a couple of weeks in.
I thought it was interesting, what Chris, you were talking earlier about how,
everyone's crowding
when you
in.
were asking, Rita, whether the politics will feel different, and the Chamber certainly does already.
Angela Rayner.
Looking there, you can see it's absolutely rammed
Angela
on
Rayner.
our side, and there were spaces on the other side. The Chamber hasn't got enough seats for all 650 members. There are quite a few.
Yeah, there's
you can
not
actually
enough
participate
seats.
from the gallery if you want to. Not just sit, but you can speak if you want to. Though it hadn't been done for quite a while.
Oh, God,
but it
there's
is very
Farage.
striking.
Nigel
Piss off,
Farage
Farage.
passing there. Richard
Ugh,
Tice, I think I
gobshite.
saw. Daisy, when you've done this, do you choose who you want to walk with, or is it is it completely random?
So clearly at the front of the queue, you can see that people are paired up.
Starmer's
But the rest
quite
of it,
short.
You're sort of really
Yeah.
going to get bumped into whoever you're
Oh, well.
walking next to, and you can end up having
How
a chat
could
with someone who you've
any
maybe
of them
never
be
spoken
civil to those
before.
traitors?
And it's really rather nice. I think for a lot of the new
That's
MPs,
why we
it's
are
always
not
interesting to
MPs,
hear
Vendetta.
What their experience of it is, because
Good yellow
some of them
pantomime.
take it in their stride, but for many of them, this is their first sort of ceremonial experience after swearing in. And some of them who have spent maybe months or years campaigning to get here really have to sort of pinch themselves, because it's a very real sense that that this is the start of the parliamentary term, so there's a formality.
Daily Mail
of the
headline tomorrow,
Speaker
Angela Rayner wears
and
blue,
then, of
how
course,
dare she.
doing, you're swearing in, but this is the big
Ogface came back
thing.
from seeing Trumpy.
Of course, a small number at the bar,
Yeah.
but the vast majority are now
Trumpy.
back.
He was like,
stacked
I've been
up
shot in the
lobbies,
ear. I
trying
need
to crane
I need
to
Nigel
speak.
Farage to
But this year
come
with
and
TVs,
pour
apparently.
honey into it or something.
And presumably this will be the last year with hereditaries in there.
Yeah.
Well, we shall see.
We shall see.
Dum, dum, dum.
The Lord Chancellor
Back from
Shabana
the USA
Mahmood.
in his private jet, probably.
Now, at the heart of this ceremony, she takes the speech from her purse and presents it to the king.
I love the idea. She takes it from her purse, like there's some boiled sweets in there and some old receipts from Asda. Just spill out all over the floor. Here you go, lad. Here's what you
My
need to read.
lords and members of the House of Commons, my government will govern in
Commons.
service to the country.
He said that with a bit of disgust, didn't
My
he?
government's legislative programme will
Right,
be
come on,
mission-led and based upon the principles of security, fairness and opportunity for all. Stability will be the cornerstone of my government's economic policy, and every decision will be consistent with its fiscal rules. It will legislate to ensure that all significant tax and spending changes are subject to an independent assessment by the Office for Budget Responsibility. Bills will be brought forward to strengthen audit and corporate governance.
It does look very
alongside
silly on
pension
an old
investment.
man. I think it looked good on the Queen.
Securing economic growth will
dangling
be
pearls.
a fundamental mission. My government will seek a new partnership with both business and working people
Can't King write his own
and
speech?
help the
No!
country move on from the
It's written
recent
by the
cost
government.
of living challenges by prioritising wealth creation for all communities. My ministers will establish
That's
an
Johnny Reynolds.
industrial strategy council. It is my government's objective to see rising living standards in all
Look interested,
nations
Johnny.
and regions in the United Kingdom.
He's now Secretary
My
of State for
ministers will get
Trade.
Britain building, including through planning reform, as they seek to accelerate the delivery of high-quality infrastructure and housing. They will also pursue sustainable growth by encouraging investment in industry, skills, and new technologies. My government is committed to making work pay and will legislate to introduce a new deal for working people to ban exploitative practices
Yeah,
and
we're expecting
enhance
this.
employment rights. It will seek to establish the appropriate legislation to place requirements on those working to develop the most powerful artificial intelligence models. My government believes that greater devolution of decision-making is at the heart of a modern dynamic economy. It is a
Devolution?
key driver of economic growth, and my ministers will introduce an English devolution bill.
Cool.
Legislation will be introduced to give new powers to metro mayors and combined authorities.
Good, good,
This will
good.
support local growth plans that bring economic benefit to communities. A bill will be introduced to allow local leaders to take control of their local bus services. My ministers will bring forward legislation to improve the railways by reforming rail franchising, establishing Great British Railways, and bringing train operators into public ownership. Taken together, these policies will enhance Britain's position as a leading industrial nation and enable the country to take advantage of new opportunities that can
He's really
promote growth
crying.
and wealth
He's
creation.
crying with boredom. He just wants to be back in California.
My government
where he belongs.
recognises the urgency of the global climate challenge.
Right, come on, let's
and
get
the
down
new
to it.
job opportunities that can come from leading the development of the technologies of the future. It is committed to a clean energy transition, which will lower energy bills for consumers over
Yes.
time. A bill will be introduced to set up Great British Energy, a publicly owned clean power company headquartered in Scotland, which will help accelerate investment in renewable energy such as offshore wind.
We knew this was coming.
Legislation will be brought forward to help the country achieve energy independence
of the Lib Dems.
and unlock investment in energy infrastructure.
Energy independence is so important.
A bill will be introduced to support sustainable aviation fuel production. My government recognises the need to improve water quality, and a bill will be introduced to strengthen the powers of the water regulator.
Of what? More powerful?
My government will seek to strengthen the border and make streets safer. A bill will be introduced to modernise the asylum and immigration system, establishing a new border security command and delivering enhanced counter-terror powers to tackle organised immigration crime. Legislation will be brought forward to strengthen community policing, give the police greater powers to deal with antisocial behaviour, and strengthen support for victims. Measures will be introduced to improve the safety and security of public venues and help keep the British public safe from terrorism. My government will bring forward plans to halve violence against women and girls. My ministers will seek to raise educational standards and break down barriers to opportunity. Action will be taken to get people back in employment following the impact of the pandemic. A bill will be introduced to raise standards in education and promote children's well-being. Measures will be brought forward to remove the exemption from value-added tax for private school fees, which will enable the funding of 6,500 new teachers. My government will establish Skills England, which will have a new partnership with employers at its heart, and my ministers will reform the apprenticeship levy. Legislation will be introduced to give greater rights and protections to people renting their homes, including ending no-fault evictions and reforming grounds for possession. Draft legislation will be published on leasehold and commonhold reform. A bill will be introduced to establish an independent football regulator to ensure greater sustainability in the game and strengthen protections for fans. My government will improve the National Health Service
Nandi looking very happy
as a service for all, providing care on the basis of need, regardless of the ability to pay. It will seek to reduce the waiting times, focus on prevention, and improve mental health provision for young people. It will ensure mental health is given the same attention and focus as physical health. My ministers will legislate to modernise the Mental Health Act so it is fit for the 21st century. A bill will be introduced to progressively increase the age at which people can buy cigarettes and impose limits on the sale and marketing of vapes.
Yes.
My ministers will also legislate to restricted advertising of junk food to children, along with the sale of high caffeine energy drinks to children. A draft bill will be brought forward
we need
to ban
stuff doing about
conversion practices.
There you go.
My government
is that all we're
will
getting?
take steps to help rebuild trust and foster respect. Legislation will be brought forward to introduce a duty of candour for public servants.
That's the Hillsborough law.
A bill will be introduced to establish a statutory Armed Forces Commissioner to act as a strong, independent champion for our gallant armed forces and their families. Legislation on race equality will be published in draft to enshrine the full right to equal pay in law. My government will strengthen its work with the devolved governments in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, so that the best outcomes possible are delivered for citizens across the United Kingdom. My ministers will establish a new Council of the Nations and Regions to renew opportunities for the Prime Minister, heads of devolved governments, and mayors of combined authorities to collaborate with each other. My government will continue to support the political institutions and devolved government in Northern Ireland. In consultation with all parties, measures will be brought forward to begin the process of repealing and replacing the Northern Ireland Troubles Legacy and Reconciliation Act 2023. Measures to modernise the Constitution will be introduced, including House of Lords reform, to remove the right of hereditary peers to sit and vote in the Lords. My ministers will strengthen the integrity of elections and encourage wide participation in the democratic process. The government will propose a modernisation committee of the House of Commons, which will be tasked with driving up standards, improving work practices, and reforming procedures. My government will ensure a strong defence based on the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation's common values of individual liberty, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. Its commitment to NATO will remain unshakable. It will maintain a strong armed forces, including the nuclear deterrent. To ensure that the United Kingdom's defence capabilities are matched to the changing nature of global strategic threats, my government will conduct a strategic defence review.
Yeah, that's needed.
My government will continue to give its full support to Ukraine and its people, and it will endeavour to play a leading role in providing Ukraine with a clear path to NATO membership. My government will seek to reset the relationship with European partners and work to improve the United Kingdom's trade and investment relationship with the European Union.
God, could you imagine?
My ministers will seek a new security pact to strengthen cooperation on the mutual threats faced by the United Kingdom and the European Union. My government will play its part in trying to secure long-term peace and security in the Middle East. It is committed to a two-state solution with a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable and sovereign Palestinian state.
Viable and sovereign Palestinian state.
Later this week, my government will host the European Political Community meeting at Blenheim Palace.
A step in the right direction.
The Queen and I look forward to our visit to Samoa alongside the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in October and our visit to Australia. Members of the House of Commons, estimates for the public services will be laid before you. My Lords and members of the House of Commons, other measures will be laid before you. I pray that the blessing of Almighty God may rest upon your councils.
Oh, so that's it then. That was the King's speech. There was no big surprises in there. I think pretty much everything
Chancellor Shabana Mahmood
we knew was going to happen happened.
retrieving the speech, putting it back in the purse.
Obviously, King Charles is being treated for cancer at the moment, so it's quite an impressive feat for him to do all this bullshit. Raiding around, wearing a heavy hat.
And the pages now approach to help the monarch.
All of eyes. You see there in the gods where people can sit in sort of balcony seats. So you'll have a lot of MPs up there. Grown-ups are back in charge. Yeah. 3 kids look terrified.
And the speech now delivered, their majesties will make their way back.
Sensible speech,
to the
yeah,
robing
Frank. It's nice not doing politics by surprise anymore. That's in the strict 9. Yeah, I agree. I like what you've done with your name there as well. This is the part where Charles gets his shoes shined. Yeah, they've got to carry his train, like a bride on her wedding day. A busy Parliament. This looks to be then. Yeah, I mean, someone was asking how much of this will actually get done. 100% of it, hopefully, because there's nothing to stop Labour from pushing all this through, except Labour. But I mean, it would take over 100 MPs to object to something.
Making their way back through.
For it not to go through now.
Prince's chamber.
No wonder they all looks bored, except Lisa Nanby, who spent the morning at the bar. There was someone else earlier who looked just happy to be there. And it was Lucy Powell.
Came back through the Royal Gallery.
I just love this hat and a stick. I'm just fascinated by the hat on a stick. Should I get a stick to put my hat on when I'm not doing my show? I want a hat stick. And there's the King with his very, very, very blingy hat on. Hats are very important. So you know who you're talking to. Do you know what I mean? If they're wearing a flat cap, they're a Yorkshireman who works down a mine, probably. If they're wearing a crown, they're a king. You see, easy to understand. Hurry up, Camilton. They could do with a bit of backing music. As Steve Bray about. It's probably outside, isn't he, making a den. That cap of maintenance looks great. I want one. I want a cap of maintenance. Can't you imagine just having a cap? Like, if you got any jobs to do around the house, any DIY jobs, you put on the cap of maintenance. If the door's like jamming a bit, put on the cap of maintenance.
It's a moment of
Get out the
solemnity
WD-40, spray down the hinges. All good. Take off the cap of maintenance. Hat and a stick. I can't find it on the menu. Why didn't anyone wear the hat? Because it's the hat of maintenance. I have no idea. There's probably something behind it. You know that having a hat and a stick is quite a popular thing in countries around the world, and that there are about 7 or 8 national flags of the world that literally have a hat on a stick on the flag. There's a hat on the flag.
Get ready to leave.
And sometimes it's on a
Palace
stick.
of Westminster. And MPs are beginning to return.
Lesotho is the most obvious flag with a hat on it because it's quite a big hat.
Where the business of politics will start up.
Republics.
Can I tell my story about the first time I did this?
Yes, you can.
The Caribbean and
Sorry, in
South
2001
America
when I was an
and Latin
MP,
America.
I did all of that following down to the House of Lords.
Have a hat on them.
And it was the last year that you still had hereditary peeresses, so all the countesses and stuff, and they were all, I mean, they were dressed like in Bridgerton, only Bridgerton hadn't happened by then, and they were all wearing tiaras and diamonds and everywhere, all over the... And I turned to somebody who I thought was a new Labour MP, and I said, where do you buy a tiara like that? It turned out he was a Conservative, and he said, you do not buy a tiara, you inherit a tiara.
I've never tried to buy a tiara, Chris, so I can't tell you whether that is true or not. But yes, I think point taken.
It's a good thing. I'm a progressive, feminist, strong female providers and protectors.
The fluidity of the British constitutional process. I know Chris is trying to listen to it.
We've made it.
Chris, you're trying. I'm going to stop this, Chris, for that, Chris, actually, because you were trying to lip read, weren't you? Could you tell anything?
There was an animated conversation going on, wasn't there, between Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer there, just as they were walking back into the House of Commons, and actually it's an insight that so often, and this is a criticism I could make of myself or more broadly parliamentary reporting, actually, is that we so often don't we focus on the battle of ideas and the argument. Of course we should, that's the democratic process, but so often there are perfectly human, respectful relationships that exist between people who've been in political tussles, I mean, to put an understatement, of the last couple of months. And I think, when they're interacting on a personal level, there is a mutual respect between the former Prime Minister and the now Prime Minister. But to see the two of them there in conversation after everything of the last couple of months, those TV debates and all the rest of it.
Oh, I love a fabulous tiara.
Lip readers pouring over that.
There will be lip readers.
I'd be intrigued to know what
sort
of small talk was exchanged.
Political battles to come as well, Chris. Just a take from you, really, on what you thought about the King's speech. Then.
Well, there was a blizzard of new bills, wasn't there? Around about 40, if my arithmetic's anything to go by, if you include the draft bills as well. I think a mixture of the sort of big-ticket items that we heard Labour campaigning on in the general election. So to just take one example, the whole idea around rail nationalisation, the idea that rail franchises will be back in public hands as they expire, so it won't happen in the blink of an eye, but it'll happen over a period of years. Then there's a bit of cutting and pasting of
Sam, thank you very much.
That there was a lot of support for across the House in the last Parliament. So things like we were talking about it before, Martin's Law, this idea of improving the safety of public venues, and also a tobacco and vapes bill, which looks at first glance, and there's a huge pack of information I'm reading through here of the various bills proposed, but looks pretty similar to the idea that Rishi Sunak first suggested at the Conservative Party conference last October, this idea of a ratcheting up at the legal age at which you can buy cigarettes. So a bit of cutting and pasting from the last Parliament, if you like, tidying up where there's cross-party agreement, and then a kind of sense of the Labour manifesto in legislative form, or the beginnings of legislative form, which is going to be the nature of the debate to come in the coming hours, days, weeks and months here.
So we were wondering before the speech, Andrew Griffiths, weren't we, about whether the speech would contain those Tory bills, elements of those Tory bills that fell by the wayside when the election was called. And as Chris says, restricting cigarette sales, phasing them out over time, and improving the safety and security of public venues, Martin's Law, as you called it. They both do appear to be in there. Are the Conservatives going to support these?
Well, look, the devil will be in the detail. Yes. And what we've seen today is a whole smorgasbord of bills. I mean, you've got a lot
Gary
of
Arnold, we need some comprehensive, educated people on the BBC.
Reform, constitutional reform, a hell of a lot of stuff on employment rights that will add red tape for business, and some of those other bans that go much further. I mean, I think we heard about a ban on advertising of food. We're going to see the government try and attempt to regulate AI,
I think
which
you'll
is
look
a
even better in a CR bit now,
that no one's done very successfully in the past.
My take on it.
So, look, I don't think it's the job of the official opposition to give blank cheques, to say without seeing the detail. And there's a lot that we saw today that's internally inconsistent. You saw financial stability, yes, but you also saw big swathes of the economy being nationalised in terms of rail, local bus services coming under control, establishment of a national energy company, all of which is going to cost taxpayers a great deal of money.
No, it's not. It's going to make taxpayers money.
But I would just like you to
Stop
come back on
lying.
that, Chris. Socialists' greatest hits.
Some of this is just common sense, like the railways. I mean, when did you last go on a railway trip that actually functioned properly, arrived on time, or wasn't cancelled or wasn't overcrowded? I mean, we do need to do something about
There's been industrial action as well, as you're aware.
Yes, but sometimes I felt when there's industrial action, at least you know there's not going to be a train, whereas on other days it's endlessly cancelled. I do this all the time between here and my constituency in South Wales. It is utter misery for an awful lot of people. And you can't do Wi-Fi, you can't work on the train. There are so many things that are just common sense. I thought it was interesting, a duty of candour for public servants. I didn't know about this coming. I'm really glad about it. I think this follows on from the infected blood scandal, and I would guess also from the
in the King's
post office
speech about
scandal.
dealing with media.
Some of the things that we're doing are clearing up the messes that there have been over these last few years. Likewise, on the Office of Budget Responsibility,
Where's Laura Kate?
it's going to have an enhanced role. I think that's really important because one of the reasons that we now have mortgage rates that are £240 more a month for many, many families, or even more, is because of the catastrophe of Liz Truss and refusing to take any advice from the Office of Budget Responsibility.
And they scrutinise the government's spending plans.
Exactly, and it's important that they should be able to do so properly and in a timely fashion, so that you're not just plucking things out of the air, because the dangers to the long-term.
Does that need to be a new law, though, or is that just an opportunity to sort of jab at a previous government?
Well, it might be a bit of both. I'm happy with a bit of both, but sometimes you have to put things in statutory form to give them the bite that they need to be effective. I notice also the Modernisation Committee in the House of Commons. This is me being a bit the former chair of Committee on Standards, and all the stuff about Partygate and Owen Paterson, all that stuff in the past. I think one of the things we all saw in this general election is that we really need to burnish parliamentary reputation and the way we do politics. So the stuff that's in there, I think, is really important, but the meat and two veg is basically economic growth and planning reform, building houses, getting the NHS sorted.
Chris,
Sorry, I'll stop.
Yes.
I'm excited. I'm just very excited. We've not been able to do this for 15 years.
I have to contain you there. Daisy, what did you hear that pleased you, and what was left out?
Should we stay with this for a minute?
Well, I said earlier on that our priorities in the election were around the NHS, cost of living, and putting an end to the sewage scandal. So, pleased to see that there are some commitments around reforming the Mental Health Act. That was something that the last government had pledged to do. I had pressed the last government government to force them to say they would definitely do it. They said they would, and then they didn't in the end. Also very keen to see some of the new public health measures that have been brought forward. Certainly, we had a very strong pitch around improving public health during our general election campaign, and so there may well be lots of additional things that we want to bring to that. Obviously, very keen to see what powers will be brought forward in tackling the sewage crisis, and certainly, given how hard we have campaigned on that, if it doesn't go far enough, we'll be looking to push the government even further. But what I would say is that even though all of those bits are welcome, the fact is that, we know that day in, day out, ordinary folk just still can't see a GP and they still can't see a dentist. And the NHS has been driven into the ground and they can't see any way of fixing social care being brought forward either. We would like the government to be really, really ambitious in these areas. And I didn't see as much ambition in the King's speech on those issues as I would have liked to have seen. So I hope that there are some other announcements that follow from the King's speech that really do show that this is a really urgent issue and it's one where the public want to see real ambition.
To meet Chris Mason's point, it's absolutely right that everything isn't about legislation.
Just one other thing that I think you test this speech against, the scale of the challenges we face. Poor defence only got a review. So it didn't get any more spending, it didn't get an improved commitment, it just got a review, which is what governments do when they actually want to avoid taking a decision. So I'm disappointed there isn't more spending on defence.
That is pathetic and cheap, because it's exactly what you did in 2010. It's perfectly sensible to do a review of our armed forces and how much we should be spending.
I'm going to pause the politics again for just a moment, because the King and Queen are now leaving the Palace of Westminster, going back down the sovereign staircase with members of the household cavalry on either side, the lifeguards and the Blues and Royals standing to attention there.
Once Perk is quite... Okay. So they're talking about the Queen's outfit now, so I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave the BBC to it. Capital gains to attract income tax, says Captain Bart Roberts. That reminds me, we need to get some sausages in for later. Old King's sausage fingers. Whilst the Tory was allowed to continue with the bullshit, Bryant was cut off. I think Chris Bryant got his point in about, like, you have a review. You don't just announce how much you're going to spend on something. You put something up for sale. You're not going to just pluck a number out of the air. You're going to you're going to do a little bit of research to see how much that thing is going for. You're going to find out what the going rate is, because you don't want to sell something that's worth £5 million for a fiver because you didn't do some research first. It doesn't really make much, there's not much of a difference there between that and, sorting things out with the military or anything. We need to have a review of what needs to be spent where, and then you spend the money. Well, the review has to be done first, and that was a cheap shot by the Tory MP, who's obviously still butthurt because of all the Tory tea as we've been drinking over the last 2 weeks. Okay, thanks very much for everyone in the chat there. Thanks for the super chats as well. I may get to really like Daisy Cooper, says Lucy Willis. I really like Daisy Cooper. I think she's great. He'll be glad to be out of that crown and robe. I'm going to be waiting till I'm dead for an ADHD diagnosis. By then, West Streeting will probably ban my HRT due to lack of safety, says Clupid Blue Pope. Possibly, I don't know. I'm still waiting for my ADHD diagnosis. It's been 9 months now since I applied, and that was going what they call the private route. It's like patient options or something they call it. I'm not actually paying for it, but it gets paid for via the NHS, and apparently it's supposed to be a lot faster than just going through the NHS, because you can take 3 years or more. And Clupid says Meghan Markle is my queen. I agree. Not much on workers' rights either. No, there was stuff on workers' rights at the top there, the new deal for working people. There was also stuff in there about I must get a Politics Social mug. Well, they're available. They should be under this video if you're watching it on a laptop. Because Prince Philip didn't want to be called king, was his choice or maybe Lizzie's? No. If the Queen is the monarch, then the person that they marry is the Prince Consort or the King Consort sometimes. But yeah, usually Prince Consorts in our country. That goes back a long way. And Queen Victoria's husband Albert was the Prince Consort. He wasn't the king because he wasn't a British guy who had inherited the monarchy. He was just a guy that the Queen married. And he was from Germany, whereas Prince Philip was from Greece. So, I mean, distant cousins, by the way. Second cousins, I think, the Queen and her husband. Didn't Queen Mary make her old man king? No. Queen Mary the First might have done. The King of Spain, Philip, the Second of Spain, who was her husband but wasn't particularly interested in her until she died, and then he was suddenly like, "Oh, hang on, what? I don't get Britain now." And like, "No, we're going to give it to Elizabeth." And he went, "I'm going to launch an armada." But there was William and Mary, William III and Mary II, who came in as joint monarchs because they both had an equally valid claim to the throne. Because don't forget, William III, or William of Orange, he had quite a tenuous claim to the throne, let's face it. It was just that he was a Protestant and the powers that be didn't want a Catholic on the throne after the death of Charles II. So, yeah, fun facts from history. If Philip and Lizzie want to be called Queen, he would have been. No. He wouldn't. He could have been King Consort, maybe, but he couldn't have been the King of England. It just wouldn't have happened because the Queen was the monarch, and that was just some bloke who was married to the king. Because obviously, when you have a king and a queen, the Queen takes precedence. So like, what? So if I married the Queen, if there was a Queen and I married her, I'd get to do the state opening in Parliament because I'm the king. It doesn't work that way. Orion does things. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I'll tell you what Orion does. Makes my day by throwing £5 into the super chat fund. The Manchester Owl Centre charged just around £1,000 a year 2 years ago for ADHD diagnosis. They offered appointments next day, essentially. I mean, it's not hard, is it? It's not hard. I don't think anyone watching this channel will be able to sort of diagnose me just from the way I behave. But £1,000 I don't have, unfortunately. Alec, also William III was king by right of conquest. His army got Mary on the throne. That's very true. Parliament is sovereign, not the king, says one angry pagan. That is true. And Lucy says, I'm waiting for my ADHD, having started on transition, says Lucy. Everything, all services in this country are 14 years behind where they should be. Our economy is 14 years behind where it should be right now. Right now, it's 14 years behind where it should be. And Labour's got a lot of work to do. So, good luck to them. That was the King's Speech. That was the state opening of Parliament. I'll be back tonight at 6 o'clock with Rachel Harris, and we'll be talking about Labour and the LGBTQ plus community. And also we'll be touching on Wes Streeting and his bizarre choice over the weekend to sort of go after trans kids for some reason, but not cis kids. So we'll be dissecting that. Please join us. Because it's quite a sensitive subject, we will be restricting comments on that completely, and the chat will only be accessible to members of this channel. I'm really sorry about that, but otherwise we just wouldn't have the chat going up on the screen at all. I don't think anyone wants that. So, did Farage turn up for it, says SC. Yes, unfortunately he did. Okay, right, I'm going to get off now, and I'll see you later. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the chat. Socialites. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.